So the question is, what is an exempt private limited company, and public limited company in Singapore? How do they differ, and which one should I prefer for setting up my own business? First of all, let's understand these three entity types. So, exempt private limited company is a company in which there are less than 20 shareholders, and all shareholders are individuals, meaning there is no corporate entity which is holding shares. When it comes to private limited company, this company can have maximum of 50 shareholders, and shareholders can be individuals or a corporate entity. And when it comes to public limited company, they can have obviously more than 50 shareholders. Shareholders can be individuals or corporate entities, and shares can be offered to the public as well. So these three different entities are treated differently when it comes to the annual compliance and filing requirements are imposed. And the logic obviously is that an exempt private limited company is restricted to few individuals, and the capital required for the business is also provided by these individuals. So there is no real need to ask them to disclose all their results publicly in the ACRA records. So they have been given much of exemptions from filing requirements, which we will see on the next slide. Now when it comes to private limited company, in this company a corporate entity is owning the shares. And we don't know whether this corporate entity is a small entity or a very big entity. Because of this, the filing requirements are slightly stringent here, and private limited companies are required to file their financial results in ACRA every year, as well as it needs to be filed in XBRL format. And lastly, when it comes to public limited company, shares are being offered to the public in exchange for money. So obviously most stringent norms needs to be applied. So public limited company, before they can offer money to the public, they are required to publish a prospectus and take the approval from Monetary Authority of Singapore for their activities. So having understood the basic difference between these three, let's do the comparison. So as we can see, for maximum number of shareholders, exempt private limited company can have maximum 20 shareholders, private limited company can have maximum 50 shareholders, and public limited company can obviously have more than that. Corporate as a shareholder allowed. For exempt private limited company it is not allowed. Private limited company it is allowed, and public limited company also it is allowed. Can they offer shares to the public? Exempt private limited cannot. Private limited companies also cannot offer shares to the public. Only public limited companies can offer shares to the public. Filing of accounts and XBRL filing is optional in case of exempt private limited companies, whereas it is mandatory for private limited company as well as public limited company. And finally, audit is not necessarily compulsory for exempt private limited companies and private limited companies, especially if they satisfy the requirement of a small group or less turnover test. However, for public limited companies, regardless of their condition, audit is always compulsory. So then obviously the question is what you should choose for your business in Singapore. Now obviously it is not a brainer that where possible you will like to avoid the public limited company structure. The requirements for compliance are quite stringent, and also it can be very costly. The cost of incorporating the company, auditor, then maybe cost of having qualified company secretary, all that is going to be significant. So where possible you will obviously avoid this format, and the real choice remains between exempt private limited company and a private limited company. So here where possible you should go for exempt private limited company for the simplicity of the compliance and lot of exemptions. However, if it is not possible for you, to take up this option, then in that circumstances, your second choice will be private limited company. Sometimes what happen is a company in foreign country is incorporating a company in Singapore. So in that situation, obviously the first option of EXIM private limited company is not possible. Then your choice is obviously private limited company. So in summary, where possible, EXIM private company should be the choice for every entrepreneur incorporating his company in Singapore, unless there are reasons to go for the other structures.
Thank you for watching this video. This video was brought to you by Epica Consulting Singapore. Subscribe to our channel today to get notified when new videos are posted.